Hello and welcome to another edition of the Ask Dr. Pickel show, where we try to find answers for people who have chronic health conditions, suffering from chronic issues that don't seem to go away. All right, so today, kind of interesting. I want to do kind of a quick research review today. This shouldn't take too long. And what's it about? Intermittent fasting. So intermittent fasting, kind of interesting. I mean, many of you have heard of intermittent fasting, most likely, and maybe have even tried it. Now, really though, there's some thoughts and theories and things like that about it, but finally someone did a study, and I thought this study was pretty excellent. So I want to show it to you guys, and we'll go over some of the details of that study. And just to give you a little bit of background on this, and well, even to back up a little here with intermittent fasting means you just take a part of your day where you don't eat. The thing is with fasting, we actually fast regularly anyway. We fast all night. When we sleep, you can't eat while you're sleeping, and that would be a fast. That's why when you eat breakfast, it's break fast. You break that fast and you start to eat again. And then we typically, as humans, eat through the day and then again stop eating at a certain time at night or when we go to sleep. So again, we are on this cycle. Now, this is another thing that's interesting about this study is the thing that kind of brought about the study or brought about their theories was that they looked at some past studies where they had seen that when they did studies on mice, where they took these mice and they kind of messed up their sleep-wake cycle and fed them differently and kind of changed their way of life. Because if you think about mice, they're nocturnal. They eat at night. They eat while we're sleeping. They hunt while we're sleeping or whatever they do. They do all their fun stuff in the middle of the night, and then they sleep during the day. So of course humans are on a different cycle there, but so they kind of changed their cycle. But they noticed that when they changed their cycle and when they fed at different times, they did things at different times, this threw off their health. It made them get sick. It made them even get cancer. So they're like, wait a second, maybe people aren't doing things right. Maybe there's this rhythm, this cycle that we need to be in. So they basically said, hey, let's take some human beings and we're going to do a study with them and have them eat at just certain times and fast in the meantime. And of course, going to be done during the day rather than night, with like they did with rodents. So let's pull up this study here. Let me see if I can get this on the screen. All right. Oh, is this the right thing here? Let me make sure. Let's scroll to the top. All right. So very interesting here. Here's the title of the study, and I'm sure many of you read the Journal of Proteomics already, so you probably already know about this anyway. The Journal of Proteomics. What is proteomics? It's a study of proteins, and the thing you have to know with this is genes make proteins, and so they're looking at certain genes that what we call code proteins, make these proteins, and these proteins are specific for certain, let's say it gives you markers. It kind of says, hey, if this protein is made, is this good for you or bad for you? Or is this protein not being made at a genetic level? Could this be could this be a cancer gene or, some of these other genes? So we'll get into that more here in a moment, but look at this. Intermittent fasting from dawn to sunset for 30 consecutive days is associated with anti-cancer proteomic signature and upregulates key regulatory proteins of glucose and lipid metabolism, circadian clock, DNA repair, cytoskeleton remodeling, immune system, and cognitive function in healthy subjects. What does that mean? Because I know that's kind of interesting, but and some words in there that sound promising and exciting. But what does all this mean? So we're gonna break that down here. And so what they did. In fact, let's look at their abstract too, real quick. where I highlighted, basically, this is saying that the results from this 30-day intermittent fast is associated with anti-cancer, kind of the things I just read up there, all these good things. And then they even, associated it more with protective against cancer, metabolic syndrome, inflammation, Alzheimer's disease, several neuropsychiatric disorders. These findings suggest that fasting from dawn to sunset for 30 consecutive days can be preventative and adjunct therapy to cancer, metabolic syndrome, and several other cognitive neuropsychiatric diseases. Okay, so what they did, and we'll get into the details. We'll break that down and say, hey, what is this good for here in a second. But what did they do? They fasted. So they fasted from dawn. They had a pre-dawn breakfast. They did not eat during the daylight, basically. So they ate before the sun came up, and they ate again after the sun went down. And those were their only 2 meals through the day. The interesting part, if you read that too, there was no calorie restriction. They could eat as much as they wanted. They could eat to their heart's content. There was not any restriction as far as, hey, you got to eat this. You can't have a candy bar or anything like that. No, they just instructed, hey, this is how you're going to eat, but these are your fasting hours. You're going to fast the rest of the day. And so very, very interesting here. And in fact, and then what they did before the studies, they got baselines on blood work, proteomic studies, which means they ran a bunch of genetic markers right before. Not really genetic markers, because genomics and proteomics are a little different. You can study the genes, but it actually gives you more information if you study the proteins made by the genes. And that's what they were studying, was these proteins that the genes made, and say, hey, how does the body respond to this? I thought I highlighted one other thing down here in this. There it was. Okay. In fact, that's the summary. So what they said in summary, after doing all this study, doing all the tests, coming up with the data, our results suggest that a 30-day intermittent fasting from dawn to sunset can be preventative and therapeutic in approaching cancer, as well as metabolic, inflammatory, and immune diseases, Alzheimer's, neuropsychiatric disorders, by resulting in a proteome protective, meaning that your genes are saying, hey, we're going to make some proteins to help you out more than we did when you were eating all day long, against carcinogenesis, which is cancer, obesity, diabetes, metabolic syndrome, inflammation, cognitive dysfunction, mental health. I mean, wow. So this is big. This is big news here. Let's remove this for a second. So kind of interesting. So let's kind of in review here. We basically, and I, who should not do this? I mean, this is like, and it's not like you even have to pay for anything to do it. An intermittent fast. I mean, why aren't all doctors telling their patients to do this, at least for even 30 days? Why aren't all oncologists looking at this and saying, yeah, maybe we need to do some of these chemo things and things like that, but let's get this going right away. In fact, let's not even wait till people get cancer. Anybody who's at not only at risk, but anybody. So basically what happens when you start this fast, and what happens when the body fasts anyway, is your cells actually start to get rid of toxins. You're not bringing things in through the day. Your body doesn't have to deal with a lot of stuff in your digestive tract, in your gut. Things start to calm down there. These rhythms change. Not only our circadian rhythm changed, but they noticed that one of the things that was affecting oops, 1 second here. the mice that were studied was their hepatic rhythm was off. Hepatic rhythm, what's that? That's the rhythm of your liver. Your liver has its own rhythm too, of what's called biotransformation, where it gets rid of toxins and hormones and things like that. And that works on a clock also. There's a lot of things in our body that work on a clock or a rhythm. So they're saying, hey, if we get these rhythms right, can this help with health? So, increases anti-cancer protein. We're making proteins that help to fight cancer. Our bodies fight cancer on a regular daily basis. It's our immune system that doesn't. If we have these extra proteins that are anti-cancer, pretty fantastic. Let me change that. And then our circadian clock. So this can help our circadian rhythm. So our adrenal glands keep us on, and our brain keep us on a sleep-wake cycle. So our adrenal glands release cortisol early in the morning to help us pop out of bed. It declines during the day, declines enough, and then melatonin is released at night, which helps us to fall asleep and stay asleep. Then cortisol rises during the night. And it's this whole rhythm. It's our sleep-wake cycle, our circadian rhythm that we have to have. And a lot of people's circadian rhythms are pretty messed up. Especially if you have a hard time getting up in the morning, you wake up during the night, a hard time falling asleep, tired during the day. Your circadian rhythm is probably a wreck, and people can sometimes get a reverse circadian rhythm. And also when people are working night shifts, they messes up their circadian rhythm. So this helps to reset that circadian clock. This helps to increase DNA repair. Wow, who doesn't need that? All right. Insulin signaling. So can this help people with diabetes, hypoglycemia? Absolutely. Cytoskeleton remodeling. What's that? So within all of our cells, there's basically a little skeleton that helps give them their shape and keep them healthy. And this skeleton also works in the transfer of things. It also works kind of like railroad tracks inside your cell too, so things can get transferred properly. Actually, it has some other functions too, but helps it to remodel. It's like, hey, let's go remodel. Pretty fantastic. Increases the immune system. So very important in fighting, especially right now with the coronavirus things going on, or any other virus, infectious agent, detoxification. I mean, the immune system plays a part in just about everything. So we need that immune system working properly, and anything that can give us a boost to our immune system, hey, let's do it. All right, and then glucose and lipid metabolism. So this not only goes into burning blood sugar more effectively, which is a problem with people who have blood sugar issues, pre-diabetes, diabetes. If you ever feel like craving sweets after meals, feeling tired after meals, or you crave sweets after all the time, or you're getting low blood sugar symptoms, yeah, you've got a glucose metabolism problem. Also, if you're getting fatty liver, glucose metabolism problem, you're putting more pressure. And then lipid metabolism, this is the breakdown of fats. So this can help you lose weight. Wow. Increasing cognitive function. So I'm definitely doing this. All right, so cognitive function. This is, again, our brain. Our brain basically also has to detoxify. Our brain utilizes blood sugar differently. You fast like this, you change these genetic responses, you change the brain. And this, of course, increased cognitive function. This is fantastic. So all of these benefits that are occurring here is just great. How can you beat it for fasting? And you just got to think, hey, I'm just going to take 30 days and do this. Now, again, if you've got some other health issues, especially if you have like low blood sugar, if you're hypoglycemic, it's going to be a little tougher on you to fast for very long, but it's still going to help. But again, you may need to consult with us first. Again, if you have other health conditions, we want to make sure that you're on the right track and you're eating the right things during this, because these people that did this, they're relatively healthy. They didn't have extreme problems. And I've got some patients with more chronic health issues, autoimmune conditions, that this would be great for them, but we may have to look at some details first to make sure that they're at a point where they can do that. But again, so many benefits to this. So if we look at the highlights here, this is the first serum proteomics study of 30-day intermittent fasting. This is the first study of its kind. Again, what we're seeing here, you do this intermittent fast for 30 days, you're going to get protection from even cancer, as this study shows. And then what does it also do? It's protective against obesity, diabetes, metabolic syndrome, which is also falls into that diabetes, pre-diabetes category. And then this intermittent fasting also induces the DNA repair and helps your immune system. And this intermittent fasting also, here's a big one, protective against Alzheimer's disease and neuropsychiatric disorders. Neuropsychiatric disorders is a broad topic, but if you have issues with brain health as far as the emotional side, hey, absolutely this could help. Again, what is again, when you fast, let me see if I can switch that off. When you fast, the body goes through autophagy, and autophagy, it's like your cells take a dump, basically. I hate to say that, but that's what happens. It's a great thing. But also what we're finding with this study is not only that, but now we're finding that genes, your genes are actually making proteins now, or encoding proteins. They're saying, let's say your genes are like the, they're the conductors of the orchestra to a degree, saying, hey, make this protein, make that protein. And so they're saying, hey, when you go through this intermittent fasting, they're making these proteins that help with all these issues. So intermittent fasting, big thumbs up. If you feel brave, dive right in. There's really, even in the study, no negatives to this. But again, if you've got some other issues, you may want to consult with us first before diving in. It's always good to have your general health checked before you dive into anything, whether it be this or exercise or anything, just to make sure that everything is and because some people might do this and say, hey, I did this for 30 days and I felt lousy and I felt horrible. Well, there could be a reason why, and maybe we need to find out what's underneath it, because again, this study is based on I think there was like 14, 15 people, as opposed, and they weren't, it wasn't like they were, they were just looking, are these genes expressing for these things? Not that these people had a horrible condition to start with. So I would say, again, we'll want to check you before, if you have health issues, before you do this, but I only see advantages. There are other types of fasting we won't get into now at this point, but very good. Share this information. I think it's great to share this. I think there's a lot of people who could benefit this. There's a lot of doctors who could benefit their patients with this information. So shout it out on Facebook, YouTube, any of the sites, and link to us. All right, well, I hope everybody is going to have a wonderful weekend. Have a great day. God bless, and I'll see you next time.